It's now been 104 days since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in Tucson, Arizona.
A county official did exactly what she was supposed to do. She received a request from the FBI in the middle of one of the most watched missing person cases in the country. She fulfilled it, and then she picked up the phone and called the sheriff as a professional courtesy to let him know. What she got back was not a thank you. It was not acknowledgement. It was a phone call from Sheriff Chris Nanos expressing frustration that she had cooperated with federal investigators at all. Let that settle. The Pima County Assessor, Suzanne Drew, provided property records or similar documents to the FBI to assist in locating an 84-year-old woman who vanished from her home more than 100 days ago with blood on her front porch and a disabled security camera. And the sheriff of the county called her to communicate that she had created a problem by doing so. The assessor described the interaction as uncomfortable, unpleasant, and confrontational. She said she had never had a negative exchange with the sheriff before that moment. She acknowledged the pressure he was under. She said they were sensitive to the stress of the situation. But she also said she was told, plainly, that her office was doing more harm than good by providing information that generated leads the sheriff's department was then obligated to pursue. More harm than good. Those words. In a case involving a woman who is 84 years old, who has a pacemaker, who requires daily medication to survive, who was taken from her home in the middle of the night. The sheriff told a county official that giving the FBI useful information was creating additional work and doing more harm than good. The call only ended when another member of the sheriff's department got on the line, intervened directly, and told Nanos to back off and leave the assessor alone. The sheriff then thanked her and told her to have a nice day. A strange ending to a deeply strange phone call in the middle of a case that has already raised serious questions about how this investigation has been handled from its very first hours. Because the assessor's call did not happen in a vacuum. It happened inside a pattern that has been building since the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. The FBI was kept away from the crime scene for the first 4 days. Not hours. Days. DNA evidence collected from the scene was sent to a private laboratory in Florida rather than to Quantico, where the FBI had offered to process it at no cost to the county. The crime scene itself was released to the family after approximately 30 hours and had to be reactivated multiple times when investigators determined they needed to go back in. And now a county official with no prior history of conflict with the sheriff is describing a phone call in which she was discouraged from cooperating with the very federal agency that has been publicly trying to assist in finding a missing woman. FBI Director Kash Patel addressed the relationship between the Bureau and the Pima County Sheriff's Office directly and publicly. His characterization was unambiguous. The Bureau was excluded from the investigation during those critical first 4 days. That is not an allegation from an anonymous source. That is the director of the FBI describing what happened in a case where every hour of the first 72 matters more than almost anything that comes after. A county supervisor who oversees the sheriff's office was not surprised by the assessor's account. His explanation for why goes back a decade. In 2016, the FBI investigated Sheriff Nanos for allegedly misusing racketeering funds. He was not charged. But the supervisor believes that investigation created an animosity between Nanos and the federal government that has quietly shaped every decision he has made about FBI involvement in the Guthrie case. From the 4-day exclusion at the start to the routing of evidence to a Florida lab that costs money the county has to pay, rather than accepting free processing from a federal forensic facility with capabilities that exceed anything a private lab can offer. The financial consequences of these decisions are not abstract. Pima County has spent approximately $1 million above its existing budget allocation on the Guthrie investigation alone. The supervisor was direct about what that means. $1 million that could have funded affordable housing, road repairs, library services, or any number of the things that 1.1 million county residents depend on. And a significant portion of that cost, he argued, could have been avoided entirely if the sheriff had allowed the FBI to take the investigative lead early in the case, as the supervisor had expected him to do within the first week or two. Then came the statement that surprised even the journalist covering this case. Sergeant Aaron Cross, the head of the deputies union within the Pima County Sheriff's Department, said publicly that the sheriff should have handed the Nancy Guthrie case to the FBI entirely. This is not an outside critic. This is the leader of the union representing the sheriff's own deputies. And he said plainly that with hundreds of FBI agents ready and available, the decision to retain local control was a mistake driven by something other than sound operational judgment. The sheriff's own history has now become part of the story. An 88-page personnel file from the El Paso Police Department, obtained through investigative reporting by Stephanie Murray at the Arizona Republic, documents a disciplinary record that includes 8 suspensions totaling 37 days. One of those suspensions, 15 days, was connected to an incident in which a handcuffed robbery suspect was beaten in the back of a squad car severely enough to be placed in a coma in an intensive care unit. A 5-member disciplinary board voted unanimously to terminate Christopher Nanos from the El Paso Police Department. He was permitted to resign in lieu of termination, a distinction that allowed him to transfer his peace officer certification to Arizona without triggering an independent background check. When the Board of Supervisors later questioned Nanos about his work history under oath, his sworn response described a minor disagreement over a towing matter and a 3-day suspension. He did not mention the 8 additional suspensions. He did not mention the unanimous termination vote. He did not mention the 88 pages of documentation that investigative reporting later made public. The board's attorneys identified multiple areas of potential perjury in his sworn statements and referred the matter to the Arizona Attorney General for review and possible prosecution. Perjury is a Class 4 felony in Arizona. The board voted against removing him from office, not because they found his account credible, but because the legal threshold for reversing an election is extraordinarily high. One supervisor made a motion to unseat him. No one seconded it. The motion failed. But the referral to the Attorney General represents a separate legal track with its own potential consequences. Against all of this, the most important forensic thread in the case is still being worked. A hair sample recovered from the scene has been sent to Quantico, where investigators are applying genetic genealogy techniques, the same methodology that identified Brian Koberger in the Idaho student murders using degraded biological material that conventional labs could not process. The hair is rootless, which makes traditional DNA extraction difficult, but low copy number analysis and investigative genetic genealogy do not require a root. They require patience and the right technology. If the sample yields even a partial genetic profile, and that profile connects to someone in a public genealogy database, investigators could identify a biological relative of whoever was inside Nancy Guthrie's home the night she was taken. The sheriff's official 100-day statement described ongoing scientific evidence processing and digital media analysis. It asked for public patience. But sources close to the investigation have described the current state more plainly. No suspects. No solid leads right now. The case could shift at any moment. A DNA match, a tip, a break in the digital record. But more than 100 days after Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home in the Catalina foothills, the investigation is defined as much by the conflict between the agencies responsible for solving it as by the evidence those agencies have managed to collect. A county supervisor said something that frames the entire situation with unusual clarity. He said he highly doubts that any of this, the disciplinary history, the perjury referral, the confrontation with the assessor, the exclusion of federal resources, would have come to public attention if it were not for the Nancy Guthrie case casting a light on the man who runs the county's largest law enforcement agency. The case revealed the pattern. And the pattern raises a question the Arizona Attorney General may now be positioned to answer. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. The hair sample is still being processed. The pacemaker is still recording. And the sheriff who told a county official that helping the FBI was doing more harm than good is facing a perjury referral for misrepresenting under oath a career that ended in unanimous termination from a Texas police department more than 4 decades ago. If you have any information, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit tips at tips.fbi.gov. The reward currently exceeds $1.2 million. This case is far from over.